Well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining the webinar today. I see a few more attendees joining in here, and we're just going to kick things off. Hello again, and welcome. I'm Matt Stevenson. I'm from Viopta here. I work on the customer success team as well as a bit on the product team, and as your host for the webinar today. I'm really excited to have everybody here today, and I'm even more excited to be joined by some fantastic panelists as we discuss overcoming UC challenges and the efforts that go into reducing downtime, the efforts that go into keeping your environment up and running, and also in troubleshooting the issues that inevitably arise when you're supporting a large collaboration environment for a lot of users. This subject is near and dear to my heart because I actually used to be in our panelists' shoes. Many years ago, I worked for Vistaprint where I ran the collaboration environment there. And after that, I joined a service provider, a Norwegian service provider called Video Nor, where I kind of was more on the customer side. So I know all about the challenges that come with supporting environments like this. I know what it's like to get that urgent call, that trouble ticket. Something is wrong. You need to investigate quickly. You need to do everything you can to make sure that things are working properly so your business can operate, right? So I don't live in this world anymore. I haven't in a couple years, so I'm really excited to hear where things are, what our panelists, our experts here are seeing today, and what they have to say about all this and where things have gone. Obviously, things are continuing to move up from on-premise to cloud. We have mixed environments, and just a lot going on. So I'm really excited to hear from everyone. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to put them in the Q&A panel. Our moderator, Blake, will be managing things there, and I'd love if we have some time at the end to answer any questions you may have, but if not, we can certainly take those down and do some follow-up with everyone there. So without further ado, let's introduce our panelists today and hear a little bit about what they do and what their environments are looking like. So let's start with James and Louis from Utah Education Network.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Louis Bias. I oversee the IVC Operations and Logistics Department and all that entails. We are a state-funded organization. We run the K-12 higher education network for every single educational institution in the state of Utah. And with that comes, of course, the challenges of running UC. James, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Greetings, everyone. My name is James Hodges. I am the IVC Operations Manager for the Utah Education and Telehealth Network. We run a core infrastructure environment, CMS on VM, and a clustered VCS registration environments. We have over 3,000 endpoints, which are a mix of hardware codecs and software clients.
Very good. Thanks, guys. So, yeah, I love that we have kind of a diverse set of organizations here. Education, obviously, super important to have things up and running really well so your teachers can teach and your students can learn. Brian, why don't we hop over to you?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Clementes. I'm a senior UC engineer for Merck Pharmaceuticals. We have a huge global footprint, as you might know, over 140 countries, a lot of end users. Our main core is a lot of Cisco UC products along with, over 600 hard codecs along with immersive units. And, we have the challenges of being the global company.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, one of the things I'm loving about the diversity of our panelists here is you all seem to have a very different organizational setup in the way your UC is run. It seems like we've got some CMR with WebEx. We've got a lot of on-premise bridging. So yeah, excited to hear the differences in your environments when it comes to the uptime and troubleshooting. And lastly, the top over, Liam at Facebook.
So I'm Liam McDonough. I'm a video infrastructure engineer at Facebook. We have 420 or so offices. There's a new one popping up every day, it seems. We have 40,000 plus employees, and we have 8,000 Cisco video endpoints coming up on 9,000 now. We have 5 expressway regions. We have full redundancy, failover capabilities. We can survive 4 data centers down and still maintain full video conferencing globally. So for us, reliability is one of the tops, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot about that from me today.
Sure. Thanks, Liam. And I'm seeing this last bullet point, 100% conference room video density. That means every one of your conference rooms has a video device or video in it?
Yep, hard codec for every single conference room.
Very cool. I mean, that's huge. I think that's something most companies would strive for, and that's a tough one to do.
It's a dream, let me tell you.
All right, great. So again, we're going to kind of do some questions here. We'll go around the horn with the panelists. For the attendees, you got questions coming up, feel free to send them in through that Q&A panel there. And we're going to hear from everybody around the horn as we go, and get a little bit from all the panelists per each question. So, question one: do you see your org investing more in UC, and what is driving that? So I'm guessing, obviously, the way I see it, of course, UC used to be nice to have. Now it is what is needed for organizations to function, to operate. So curious your thoughts here, and why don't we start this one off with Brian?
So I mean, from our perspective inside of Merck, we're trying to drive the UC technology to the highest point we can possibly get it to. So we're spending the money in our infrastructure, in our teams to try and achieve these dreams per se. With a global company, you have folks who are all over the globe who are working from their home, they're working from the airport. So we're trying to give them the best technology capable to try and drive those drugs to market. It's essentially the end game. And being in the UC group here at Merck, you don't really think about it too much, but what we do helps the folks communicate and get those drugs to market to be life-saving cures for people in most cases.
Great. So it's I'm seeing this almost from a product perspective. UC helps your product get created, and your helps it get it out the door. Very, very cool. Liam, let's hop over to you on that one.
So as you can imagine, with 400 or so offices globally and 100% density, we're probably going to continue to invest in this technology. It's part of our blood here. We use video every single day. Our conference rooms have something like 6 hours of usage on VC per day. It's kind of staggering how much it's used. The driving force is actually the users. The users want to communicate in a really organic way, and frankly, short of being next to the person, video is the way to do it. And so we're able to maintain relationships across the world at extremely high levels and deliver coding projects that probably would be impossible without UC. So this enables us to make impact across, we have multiple companies underneath Facebook, and it enables quite a lot of innovation just by enabling people to go face-to-face. So we'll continue to purchase this. We'll continue to strive for, the perfect environment for our users, and, that's what they demand of us.
Fantastic. Yeah, sounds here like it's just kind of lifeblood of what you do, helping get things done faster no matter what it is. It's part of the core of your company. I think a lot of organizations strive to do that, so nicely done. How about we move over to the UEN team on this one?
Well, as I mentioned before, we're an educational core infrastructure for the state of Utah. We push out that 100 gig, multiple 100 gigs to each institution out there, each school district, each different university. So having UC is vital to us to be able to support such a large variety of platforms that they insist on. On our video side, which is our bread and butter, goes to a further point. Those students out there now refuse to have any type of jitter, any type of problem on their video. They are used to walking around their home, the mall, McDonald's, and being able to get that. They'll use their Facebook that Lyman produces out there to get into their social media from their classrooms. So it's absolutely essential that a good UC continues to be developed, continues to grow within that. James, from the firefighting side, your Tier 1 staff, what do you think?
Absolutely. That's what students and users out there are asking, is a more diversity of applications to use to connect. If your institution doesn't provide it, they're going to go to school down the road. And so that's our primary focus, is to be able to be nimble and accommodate those needs for students, instructors, and those institutions.
Awesome. Yes, and yes, I'm hearing, yeah, providing the best experience to draw in that student group and yeah, really drive the need for people to want to use the platform. All right. Thanks, everybody. All right, so let's move here on to this one. I'm kind of really excited to hear, being kind of removed from the game for a while and seeing all the changes over the last few years. Are you seeing simplification or more complexity in UC as we begin here in 2019? Why don't we start with you, Ian, on this one?
Matt, that's a great question. Really is a great question, because the user community is insisting the simplicity side of the house. They want to use whatever they want to use, and it has to be simple. They don't want any, lagging video or lagging audio on their systems. And yet, from the core side, it is becoming more and more complex on a daily basis. You got to keep on top of the demands of our user community, which is our educational institutions, right? So it is becoming tougher and tougher, more complex, and your engineers are becoming more complex in the designs that they're having the operations side having to support. So it's just...
Yeah, the user wants simplicity, but with that simplicity and the support side and the operations side comes major complexity and the ability to support those diverse needs.
Absolutely. I remember from my experience, it's when you're dealing with complex systems and rolling those out and maintaining them, the other side of things is making it easy for people to use, to adopt, to want to use, right? If they're not simple to use, people will not use them. Yeah, Liam, curious your thoughts on this one.
So I think I agree fully, and the simplification is definitely demanded, and I would say that from a user perspective, it's definitely getting a lot easier, right? Like the whole goal from our side is to make it so that you walk into a room, there's like a green button you can push, and all of a sudden it's happening, right? That is magical, unless you understand how it works, and that's not magical, it's really complex, and the being able to make the choices about that back end and being able to choose which way you go is kind of a tough choice in a lot of ways these days, because there's so many different options. We're lucky in the sense that we're able to invest heavily up front and kind of choose the technology for our users. So we maintain only give or take five styles of rooms throughout our environment, and they're all cookie cutter and work almost exactly the same way. This enables us to create that simplification without having to support everything, but at the same time, we do enable full dialing everywhere. You can dial to any platform, you can connect to anything you want, but it's still simple. And so it took a lot to get there, but now that we're there, it's really a great experience for users. They can walk into any conference room and just get started on whatever meeting they need, whether it's cloud, internal, doesn't matter.
Great. Yeah, and so it seems to me to create that simplicity for the user, it's continually adding more complexity on the back end. Brian, curious what you have to say about it.
I mean, we're seeing the challenges across the board through our three organizations, where our user base is definitely driving that simplification process. They want to be able to come into conference rooms, their home office, and be able to connect first time, every time. But what they don't understand is that flexibility that we give them to work from wherever they want to work from is a huge complexity inside of our organization. We're a small group. UC is still pretty in the infancy here at Merck, even though we've been doing it for a couple of years. But our group is small. We don't have a lot of folks who support this globally. So having that complexity on the back end, obviously drives us to try and simplify it a little bit more, while still giving the clients, what they want. They want first time, every time. They don't want to have any audio issues. They don't want any video issues. But at the end of the day, this is all technology, and things happen, and we have old conference rooms and old equipment all over the globe that we're working on. But I see the simplification getting there. I think everybody's been doing a good job of building the platforms to be simpler for the users. But it's certainly not. They're not doing us any favors, I can tell you that.
Yeah. And Brian, you bring up a good point when you say legacy equipment, legacy devices, right? Because of course it would be fantastic if everyone's environment was a single platform, But the way things have grown, the way things have changed, that is not the case. We have multiple platforms and vendors. We have mixed environments. We have interoperability to deal with. And to make it simple for the user, we're trying to shield all that on the back end. And to Liam's point of being able to dial everywhere, there's a lot that goes into making it all happen when you've got a mixed environment like that. So, yeah, to me, it seems like we are growing a bit in the complexity area, except we're making it easier for the user. So at least we're doing that for them. Great.
That legacy gear is a big thing too, because just the difference between TC and CE codec, like just that software difference is such a massive difference just for the users that when you try to make a change and you try to keep that simplification, you try to keep that, now you're disparate between two different UIs, and now it's very hard. And that's something I think all of us can feel for, that, you know, as you're bringing up these older platforms, trying to get rid of them, the new ones are here, everyone wants the new ones, but, you know, now you're even more split because of that. So
We feel your pain.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I think I remember that situation back in the day, and I think a lot of our attendees can probably relate to that as well. All right. Loving this one. What is the biggest challenge regarding UC in your day-to-day? And I want to start this one off with Liam.
So we're lucky in the sense that a lot of the challenges that we normally would have faced in previous jobs and even previous years here, where it was more conference room based or codec based or something wrong with our infrastructure itself. So we built to the point where we're so robust that our actual day-to-day challenge is finding out what's going on outside of our wheelhouse, what's going on with the platform infrastructure, the VMs we set on, what happens to the network, what's going on at each individual level and each hop, and investigating that side of things. So we have lots of information about our conferencing environment, but now the biggest trick is how do we take all of this information here, overlay it with all of this information from the network and the platforms team, and bring it out into something that shows us what we call SEVs as they happen, or even be a little predictive. And that's something we're trying to find a way to, and it's a huge, 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 huge challenge for us. By simplifying, we made it easy, but you know, the challenge is now into something that we don't necessarily have our hands on. And that makes it interesting to measure, interesting to investigate, because you always want to be able to hand off the very best information to your network and your other partner teams so that they can make those best first steps to get you back into working order quickly. So that's definitely one of our biggest challenges, and we don't have a great solve aside from staring at data and diving in with tools and just digging away till we find it. So
Yeah. Hearing your challenge around providing data to the network team. I can speak to my experience when you're trying to troubleshoot, you have a problem going on, and you're not sure if it's the network, right? You're kind of guessing. I remember when I didn't have any data or tools to go off of, I kind of would just go to the network team, say, hey, I think we have a problem here, and that really wasn't a good relationship, because the network team's got a lot going on. They got a lot of tickets. They got a lot of things going on. But having data, having information where you can say, I see a problem here. I think it's on this network. And you have actually something to show them is very valuable in that experience.
Absolutely. That handoff is key. And it builds the relationship when you come to them, understanding what they're going through, handing them good data they feel good about. It's the same thing as when some user comes up and says, hey, I had a really bad video call. You don't necessarily, you can't help them. Like, you need more, you know? So we're that same thing to the network and platforms teams. We need to be able to provide the same level of data that we would expect, or want, rather.
Absolutely. All right. How about we move this over to the UEN team?
You know, day-to-day challenges for us is probably the same as the other panelists have, and it's the constant growth and the constant change in the environment, the constant demand from that user community for changes. Education has figured out that we are not an island here. We have this entire globe that we need to invest into. We have folks teaching from Washington, D.C. We have folks teaching abroad from France now, coming into the state of Utah. So those challenges are extreme. Something as simple, and I'll put this out to Lyman, because he's the one that mentioned TC to CE, and that's a software upgrade, right, for our codexes. New technology, for whatever reason, seems to break all the old technology in a lot of cases. A new OS just came out, and you know what? Nothing's working anymore. James has the dubious task of having his staff be aware that this OS just got dropped, and we're having all kinds of problems. Why did that happen? The APIs changed on the back end? Maybe. So how do you get that information to the team that actually has to fix it without previous knowledge of it? So that's the day-to-day challenge, the constant growth of technology within our environment.
Yes.
I agree. And growth in our environment and education is our bottom line. If we don't have students that are constantly able to, like we were talking about earlier, be nimble enough and be flexible enough to take their classes when and how they want them, with no boundaries and it seems anymore space or time, they're going to go to the next institution or to the next state down the road to get that. So that's really our biggest challenges, and it goes back to question 2 with that complexity. They want to use a diversity of ways to connect. We have to make it simple for them and make sure that it's a seamless, consistent experience. Not just their initial experience, of course, but an ongoing and consistent one as well.
Right.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm hearing too, and I'm guessing over at UEN, you have a lot of integrations with things like AV systems. You've got big lecture halls and things like that. So when you're talking about changes in the OS affecting things and those connections, that can be a huge problem.
Yeah, and that's a really simple example. I'll go back to what Liam said as far as standardization across your conference rooms and your meeting rooms. You know, we're big on standardization because it in operations, because it helps us be able to troubleshoot more efficiently and effectively, knowing those cookie cutter setups and how a room is wired. But what we've experienced over the past few years is institutions installing their own rooms, doing their own thing, but we are still expected to support that with no purview whatsoever into their network infrastructure, into how that room is wired, what version of software they're running, and that's where these tools really come in handy, is being able to assess that, not just when the problems happen, but even ahead of time, kind of looking in that crystal ball and saying, okay, we see that these codecs are running 3 revisions behind on their software. We need to work with this institution to get them up to speed so they can play nice with everybody else in the sandbox, right?
And
For sure.
Then you throw in those pesky security folks on our team. We're going to throw up a new firewall out there, and that changes all the rules again. So being able to give them the information that, yes, you upgraded, fantastic, we're now more secure, but now we can't talk to each other.
Oh, yes.
I
think we can all speak to that one. Yeah.
That we definitely can.
Great. Brian, I'm curious your thoughts on this one.
So, everybody's, we're kind of all in the same boat. We're there to support the clientele, and we're only as good as the information we get from them. So if an end user has a problem, we get, you get that cryptic email, hey, I was at home yesterday and I heard bad audio. I had bad audio on my WebEx. And you're like, all right, where am I supposed to start on this? So we see that, and that's probably the biggest challenge, is getting the correct info so that you have a place to start and start investigating. Because we're a global organization and we have people who work from home, as you can see, I'm home today. Most of my team works remote, so we live and breathe, using these UC technologies. And there's a whole subset of, sales folks that use the exact same stuff we do. They're at home, they're on their iPads, so we got to be able to quickly diagnose, quickly find out what their problem is and try and help them out. And the biggest, challenge that we see day to day is just not having enough info in our hands to even start looking at someplace. We had an issue probably a couple of months ago where, a high-level, executive inside of our in our organization had a complaint about bad audio on a WebEx, and we come to find out that they were using, I think they were using some earbuds or something like that with their iPhone. And we're like, I'm sorry, all your stuff pointed to you having a good call, so it must have been your setup. Oh, it's not my setup. I use this all the time. I'm like, well, something was wrong in there, and there's not much I can really do. But those are those challenges that you see. The Liam and the guys from UEN. Everybody has different ways that they connect, and they want to connect their way. And if it doesn't work, it's their problem. It's not, it's not my stuff that's wrong. It's their stuff that's wrong.
True.
Very interesting, and yeah, I'm hearing something you're saying that I can definitely relate to, and that is when a user's called, users don't know what the back end infrastructure of your collaboration environment's like, right? They know they have a problem. Exactly. They say, I have a problem, and you don't have as much info. So a huge part of maintaining uptime and really reducing the troubleshooting is just being able to locate where calls are happening quickly, and then being able to really quickly find what is going on that call. So I can definitely relate to that. And also, I'm recalling, you get a ticket or a call about, hey, I had a call 2 days ago. I just remembered how bad it was, and I want you to tell me what happened. And just being able to, oh man, now I have to go back and go through who knows what and spend how much time looking into this. Yes, absolutely.
Just give me a WebEx ID. Give me a TMS ID. Just give me something to start.
Yeah, which they'll never be able to give you. Absolutely.
You definitely have to follow up to get that, for sure.
Yep. All right, so moving into kind of more global questions here, I'm just curious, what's the cost of downtime and that bad experience for your users to your organization, and from an operational standpoint, from how your business operates? Why don't we kick this one off with Brian this time?
So when we talk about downtime here in Merck, it's all dependent upon the person. If a top executive, that could be thousands to $10,000s of dollars if they are down for an extended period of time, and they have to communicate to make decisions on whether they're ready to go to market with a drug, or they're looking at a drug trial and they're trying to make decisions. So there's a lot of money in play there where if they can't communicate correctly or they can't communicate effectively to make those decisions, that affects the bottom line. From an organizational standpoint, from operations, it's more, the quicker we can diagnose a problem, the quicker we can get on to doing the things of more engineering, how to make it more reliable, how to even just more simplification to the processes that we have in the operations. Coming from an engineering perspective, I hate being on operational issues for long periods of time, and I'm sure the guys on the panel are the same way. They want to be doing the cool, fun, new things instead of trying to figure out why some person was running on their treadmill in a WebEx and forgot to mute themselves, and people are complaining that all the feed. There's nothing from an engineering perspective. I can't do anything about that. I'm not the host of the meeting, so you got to tell the host. And they're like, well, nobody's a host. Well, who was the alternate host? Well, we don't know who that was. That person's on vacation. Whatever the case may be. So you could spend half a day trying to explain that, and that's, to me, there's not a cost associated with it. It's the cost of not expanding our our UC footprint or making UC tools better and things like that.
Yes, I'm definitely hearing that. I'm curious what the UEN team has to say about this one.
Ours is a little different. James and I talked about this, and I'll put the spin at the administration level. You can't put a monetary cost on a bad experience here at UEN. You can't put money assigned to a classroom of students that can't connect because they're having connectivity issues, network issues, firewall issues, local wireless issues. That time is lost, and that time needs to be reinvested sometime down the road or reacquired down the road for those students to be able to catch up on their doctorate level class, on their master's level class that they're spending, that they're joining these classrooms while they're working, during their lunch hour or after hours. So you can't really put a money cost like the way Brian's putting it, but I like James' explanation of this. When him and I collaborated on some of these questions, he came up with something really cool, and I think that's the biggest value, the cost of the value in our organization.
Yeah, and to us in operations, that boils down to one word, and that's simply trust. The trust of your users, the trust of our institutions, the trust of our students, our instructors that use our platforms. And it goes back a little bit to question number 3, in that even one negative experience, even one negative perception of a low quality experience is going to affect that trust in your stakeholder, your audience, your market. You've got to earn that trust through ensuring that they have a consistent and regular quality experience. And in the education environment, if they don't have that, you see your enrollment numbers drop. You see students going elsewhere for this kind of technology and flexibility.
Right.
And so it's really important that we utilize anything that we can in our arsenal of tools to meet their programs, their instructors, our students' goals and needs consistently.
Yeah, I'm thinking that everyone that's managing UC or has experience managing UC can relate to that, the loss of trust. If a user has a problem, they're probably not always going to open up a ticket or call in about it. They're just going to be less likely to use it again the next time. So,
we found people have a tendency to just, quote, live with it.
Put up with it,
Yes.
For a while. And that's something we really strive for here in our environment, is not letting people live with it. Ensuring that they know if they even have a single degraded experience, that they can contact us and we can try to get to the bottom of it for them.
So we're going to spell trust going forward with the S turned into a dollar sign.
Okay, I like it.
There we go.
Liam, curious your thoughts on this one.
So just to touch on what they just said first, we have like a saying here where if one user reports a 20, you're seeing it per user reporting, at least. And it might actually be a higher number, but we just assume that as soon as one user says they have a problem, that we need to investigate this like it's a major issue, because if you don't, it might actually become one really quickly, and you just missed your canary in the coal mine, right? So that's just, wanted to comment on that really quickly. From the cost to us, I wouldn't put a dollar amount against it, though I'm sure that you could find someone here at Facebook that would put a dollar amount against it. However, I will say this, productivity is so much more important than money. So if we lose productivity for even 20 minutes, that's 20,000 developers who are in meetings or doing something, and now that organic work that they were doing across the globe that was driving some fantastic product, and they were all in the zone, call cuts. Well, now that's ruined, and you might not get back that magic. It's just like a music recording, right? Like sometimes there's just that one take. If you miss it, that's it. This is sort of the same way, though it's more recoverable when it's designed. That loss loses trust, but more importantly, it sours the experience for the users of what they were doing. They were all excited, they were all moving, they were getting going, and now the technology has failed them and made it so that everything is gone. That is the real cost. Picture, and now if you want to look at a dollar amount, just picture 1,000 developers who just had their meetings ruined, and how much money they probably make per hour, and how much time and productivity is lost there. Sure, you could put a dollar to that, but I think it's even more important what they were working on is now pushed backwards. And if they can't complete that, in our case, we're going to miss the next virtual reality thing with our Oculus Rift, or we're going to miss, some cool way that you can upload new photos or something, right? In Merck's, world, that might be someone doesn't get saved. So the cost of UC downtime is huge from that productivity perspective.
Yes, I love the thought around losing those creative moments, right? You have that thing, you don't capture it, it's gone, and that's something I don't think we all think about. That's a fascinating perspective. Thanks. All right, so I think we touched on some of this next question in the last one, but I'd like to dig a little deeper and kind of move into the cost to you and your team when it comes to troubleshooting these issues. And we have a little statistic here from Forrester where it talks around the cost per trouble ticket, depending on the organization, can be anywhere from $75 to $200 an hour. And I'm hearing that it's not so much monetary value that you all are concerned with, but I am curious where that fits into you and what it looks like for your team when it comes to troubleshooting these issues. Let's start with you, Ian, on this one.
That goes back also to the trust issue, but more importantly on our side at maintaining that infrastructure is time. We are not stuck troubleshooting somebody's problem on their earbuds. We are now stuck troubleshooting somebody that called in that just had a release upgrade. So time to us is money. Time to us is things we're not working on the future, things we're not working on maintaining stability within our infrastructure, right? So to us, the real cost to our team is time. From James' perspective, on your tier ones, they're troubleshooting a ticket that probably should never have even come in, right?
Yeah, I mean, and time is money for us. It really is. And by that I mean it's kind of what we've touched on all along here in the cost of your staff resources. In troubleshooting something that often is very simple, should you have the right tools to do so, when we could be working on, like was mentioned earlier, those next big things, those next greater technologies that we're trying to implement and accommodate. When you have something new that comes out, we don't release it to our stakeholder groups or our market before we've had a chance to fully vet it and fully ensure that it will be a good mesh in our environment. But if we're spent troubleshooting even the most basic of issues, our engineering staff, our Tier 1 staff don't have the opportunity, and we can't get those next iterations out the door to accommodate those needs as quickly as we'd like.
Absolutely. I can relate to the loss of time and just getting bogged down with tickets that are simple problems that shouldn't even come in. So anything you can do to reduce the time you're working on those, or maybe even to your point earlier about the crystal ball, trying to find problems before they become tickets is a huge help. Brian, how about you? Oh, are you muted?
Yeah, sorry about that. Going back to the last question. Yeah, I need remedial training on how this WebEx works.
Which version?
Exactly. It all ties into the last question. Is who is it affecting? I think the folks who worry about money like to see money attached to it. Us in the engineering and operations, it's just straight time. Like if I'm spending 3 days troubleshooting an issue that was deemed to be somebody's home ISP provider, then why am I doing that? So the quicker we can get to that resolution, or the quicker we can get to that root cause issue, the more I could get back into doing the things that I like to do, trying to figure out how all this cloud and on-prem and new hybrid media nodes and everything are all going to work together. Instead of, going down a rabbit hole and into the weeds, whatever you want to call it, chasing, something that it's just really at the end of the day, not my problem, or there's nothing I can really do about it. So I think in the grand scheme of things, the time lost is the huge, if you want to call it, monetary factor in our troubleshooting or our day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember being in your shoes and wanting to work on that fun stuff, and anything that takes away from that. And not only is it fun to work on the newer cool stuff and solving problems, it's helping do things like we talked about earlier, simplifying things for the user, making things more efficient. So absolutely agree. Liam, can you round this one out for us?
So I'm going to go and vote for the quorum on time here. Time is the key. Honestly, we have a pretty big team, and we're very lucky that we have such a big team. But a lot of the easy ones are quick solves, and they actually don't cost us much time at this point. It's the bigger ones. It's the one where you have a 15-second spike on your VCSs that causes packet loss, over and over and over, but nothing seems to do it, and you find out it's something down the chain that you just have no visibility into. It's that lost time there, and those ones can go on for a long time. There was one issue I can think of specifically that took me 2 months to track down. Every day I was hunting it, and it ended up being a virtual firewall and a bunch of other things that just all came together and created this problem. And when you're diving into that for all that time, I lost time on building out the next great thing for my users. I lost time on building out the next design for scale and how to, 2 times our infrastructure again. Losing that time, you make it up, but you make it up on the weekend. You make it up at night. You make it up the ways that you have to in order to get it done. And so from the monetary perspective, there's not a lot, but there is like an employee exhaustion side to this thing where if you don't have enough time to get the thing done that you need to get done, but you have to get both done, you got to deliver it anyway, right? So it leads to more stress on your employees. It leads to just more stress overall, and that's not what you want. And I know it's not a monetary value, but I think that's important. When your ops guys are stressed and when your teams are stressed, they're not going to function as well. They're not going to be as smooth. They're not going to be as polite, and they're not going to move the same speed you could. That is a real cost associated with these long-term troubleshootings. But that's the big one. That's where the time gets lost. When you correct that, and when you get down to really good ways of handing off and stuff like that, and you get your time back quickly, that's when you feel awesome. You're like, oh, we found the problem, we passed it on. Those are great. So that's where it's really time. I agree with everyone. It's time.
All right, it is official. The quorum is time. Yeah, but I'm also hearing some of these intangibles that to your point, Liam, are really important, and maybe specifically to this team, the monetary value isn't so important because there's all those intangibles. But yeah, as you maybe go up the chain to the C levels and things like that are crunching the numbers, that's where we get into the monetary cost. But for you all, it's the time and getting things done. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving into kind of drilling into this just a little bit more, just curious everyone's, just your biggest frustrations when it comes to live monitoring your environment and just really optimizing that uptime, making sure things are reliable. Liam, can you start us off here on that one?
So I'll start off by saying if the problem isn't a local AV problem, because if the problem is a local AV problem, that leads to, I think, a different set of frustrations because you can't monitor as well to those AV problems. But if we're going to talk about something on the network or on the infrastructure level, the biggest frustrations is really lining up things. And I'm going to come back to time again, although this time a different way of measuring time, alignment of time. So as you might imagine, we have a lot of information on our network and on everything, and they're all in graphs and charts and tables and all these fantastic ways, but it doesn't all overlay, and it doesn't all give us a big picture. And so one of our biggest frustrations is literally how do we overlay all of this so we can see it at the exact same time and just view everything right then and there. That's a pretty big problem, and I'm not sure that there's a great solution for overlaying video and network and platforms out there. But this is where we spend most of our time these days is hunting down these charts and these graphs and this data in order to find a problem and fix it and even see this ahead of time. And so that is where we really have our biggest frustrations, as long as it's not an AV problem. If it's an AV problem, then that's actually a big frustration, but we don't see as much anymore. That would have been a historic one in previous businesses, but I'd say that now it's more of a network and overlaying of time of data problem.
For sure. And wouldn't it be nice in a perfect world if there was one thing that had your AV, your network, your infrastructure all in one place? That would be quite the perfect world, but that is not where we live. Yeah. James and Louis, what do you think on this one?
I agree with Lyman that there's no one tool that we've seen yet that will simplify our lives. The key frustration points for us is having to digest at the Tier 1 level, at the NOC level, the Tier 1 NOC level, the Tier 1 AV level, having the right tool to be able to diagnose where that problem is. In our environment, have 15, 20 tools on a 50-foot wide video wall that you're maintaining all the time, what's going on your 2,000 classrooms that are currently connected on your WebEx that's running a 50 panelist discussion. So having 15 to 20 tools to digest is difficult. That's where you want to resolve your problems at the Tier 1 level. You take that up Tier 2, you take that up to the application guys. That is extreme frustration for that team. To Lyman's point, you're losing development time. You're having to stretch your 24-hour days to a 30-hour day now. So we're constantly being bombarded by so much information that you want to be able to digest at the Tier 1 level to eliminate those problems, right? We want to foresee what the problems are before they're even existing.
I agree completely.
All right, Brian, how about you? Do you agree? Similar frustrations for you?
Yeah, there's some frustrations there that the same folks on the panel have. It's getting to that one tool that gives you everything you need. That it's simplified to get. There's many tools out there. There's some that have just too much information in them that are just overladen with they just give you all the information you could ever want, but then it takes too much time to go through all that information. So finding that one tool that gives you what you want or gives you enough information to make either a root cause or a diagnosis. Is it easy to read? Is it easy to use? Does it spit out the correct graph that somebody who is technical but not as technical as we are, to be able for them to read it? You know, you look at, let's say, latency or packet loss or jitter or anything like that. Is there an easy graph for them to understand, and is there an easy way for you to say, all right, when packet loss gets over, 3%, then it's very bad, or whatever the case may be. It's finding that one thing that just kind of makes our lives easier when we go to tell somebody else about the problem. We could sit here and go all day, and Liam could show me something. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that right away in your environment that you're having issues, but he might go to a higher up on his level. What's going to be the easiest way to communicate that to the powers that be?
Yeah.
The old days of have you tried turning it off and on again are gone. The complexity of our current technology and environment, that old adage no longer exists. There's so many things down the road that could be wrong. That like I said, term. Kick that out the door, because that you can't use that anymore. And that was
no, you cannot.
For everybody, right?
Most of the time, that's what the first thing people do is they turn it off and then back on again. So they already know that. You can't tell them that.
And then you lost all your logs.
Yeah,
what do you do?
Exactly.
Yes. Well, this leads me into the next question that I think kind of setting the table for, and if you could be able to identify things more quickly, if you had those really good tools, what are you able to do with that time saved? And we spoke to it a tiny bit in the question previous, but I'm curious if we can dive in a little more. And Brian, maybe you can start us off on this one. What can you do with all that time saved?
So lots of stuff. Reading white papers, working on projects. One of the things that I also do as a UC engineer here at Merck is I handle all the audiovisual standards for the entire company around the globe. So there's a couple other people on my team. We all have that dual role where we're, half UC video, the other half AV engineers. So being able to troubleshoot something quickly and easily on UC allows me to concentrate, let's say, on a new building that's going up in a different country, or just in my backyard, let's say, Upper Gwynedd, which I live close to, which is one of our locations. I have probably 30 conference rooms that are getting overhauled this year. So some of my time is spent on that. So if an operational issue comes in with one of our UC tools if I can quickly identify the problem, I can get back to working and making sure that our vendors and our installers are doing everything right to keep those rooms simplified for the end user. So taking that time allows me to concentrate on the other aspects of my job.
Absolutely. How about Louis and James?
Boy, I'll answer that one.
Go ahead.
Really easily, and it goes back to what I talked about before.
He would smile a lot more with that.
Smiling's overrated. Now, to us, it's the value. Again, it's one of those things that we can't put a monetary number on, but to me, it's the confidence of our users in our abilities to handle their issues when they call. As we try to take a more proactive approach to identify issues before that user call comes in, when they call us and we already know, hey, we're seeing that. We've gotten 2-3 other calls. We're on top of it. This is what's causing the issue. But more so, hopefully, by the time they do call, we are already well down the path to resolving it or have already resolved it. Right. And they're like, wow, okay, yeah, gosh, it's great to know you guys are here to help us. It instills confidence, and it goes back to instilling that trust that we have the ability, we have the expertise to ensure that they have a good quality experience every time.
Absolutely. And Liam, can you bring us home on this one? Oh, Liam? We might have lost him.
See, that's what happens when you're on call and you have to really quickly send a message. See, this is part of the operation stuff we're talking about, right? So I agree with everything everyone's saying, but I will say that if you can identify problems and see them in the moment, you can automate that problem out of existence. Now, that's a tricky thing to do, but for us, it's part of our bread and butter. It's part of what we do. If we see a problem, we need to fix it in some way, and usually it revolves around writing tooling or writing automatic failures, anything like that. When you can see everything immediately, your problems are fixed in seconds. If that can happen, you don't have to worry about your user base trusting you because it stays up more often than not. And it enables them to know that every time they go and have a video conference, that their experience is going to be the same and that's going to be good. And that right there, being able to automatically fix a problem, that's something I think we all can strive for. We do it a little bit here, and we're working on getting better at it. But the better the data is, the faster we can react. And when that happens, the world's your oyster. You have as much time as you want. You won't have to worry about what's going on in the environment because it's auto-correcting in a lot of cases. And that's something that is, I think, in the next 10 years, we're going to see a lot of us doing a lot more of, and there will be tools and stuff that come up to help you with that. And that's where we kind of are now, and that's what we do with all of our extra time that we get from monitoring. So.
Great, thank you all. And yeah, we're getting close to the top of the hour. Got a couple of questions left, but at this point in the webinar, I'd like to introduce Vyopta's answer to kind of everything we've been talking about, to increasing uptime, to reducing the time it takes to troubleshoot issues, to get visibility into your environment, and that is called Collaboration Performance Management Monitoring, or CPM Monitoring for short. And it is, again, the answer to exactly what we're talking about. When you have a mixed environment and you want to get insight and visibility into everything that's going on, no matter what, if you have a mixed vendor environment and different calls going through interop with different services, we're showing you everything in one place. We're allowing you to get a lot of data on what is happening there, and we're also giving you some insight into some deep quality stories and what's happening on a call. Not only being able to show you this in real time, but being able to show you the entire quality history of the call and really paint a picture of what's going on, along with things like showing you peripheral status. So to people's points of, is the microphone muted? Is it disconnected? We're showing you this in real time and over, again, the entire history of the call. One of the things that excites me the most about the CPM platform here is I forget who spoke to it, but the problem of, okay, a call just ended or it happened 2 days ago, and being able to go back, and what we can do here is dial back the clock and investigate those problems, no matter if they happened a few seconds, a few hours, a few days ago. We can go back on the platform and provide all this quality history in seconds, so you don't have to dig through the different pieces of infrastructure. It's all there in one place, and it quickly accessible. So doing in seconds what might have taken minutes or hours. We're providing some rich real-time dashboards with the same dial-back capability. So if you want to get a look at what your infrastructure was what was happening in your infrastructure over time, or live call quality for all your calls and endpoints, you can do that. And things like monitoring peripheral status. Again, if you want to know if a big group of touch panels in your environment goes down, you're going to be able to see that live and in real time. And of course, moving into the proactive, the crystal ball. I want to know ahead of time when something's happening, when that touch panel has gone down, when a microphone's been unplugged. So you can proactively go ahead and take a look at those things, maybe send someone to that conference room before 20 people go into that conference room and have a failed meeting. So super exciting stuff. I get excited as a former UC admin. Of course, as someone who works for Vyopta, I'm curious, though, what people think on the panel. Is this a tool that would help you improve visibility into your environment? Would a tool like this help you all out? Let's start with James and Louis on this one.
Absolutely. I think real-time is key. Real-time is absolutely key. What we don't want is tickets. What James doesn't want is his staff busy.
I don't like tickets.
You don't like tickets, right? So real-time is important. That proactiveness, Matt, as you mentioned, is key. Knowing that there's a problem existing before that call actually gets called into our support center, and being able to fix that, or being able to tell the customer, hey, we know about it, we're on it, we're fixing it, give us a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're in an interesting time right now in our field in UC, where a lot of the traditional tools we've used for many years by certain vendors who will remain unnamed at this juncture. But with the waning development of those existing tools and the limited options and unrealistic costs of some of those alternative applications, a tool that has the potential of being able to quickly and easily and immediately diagnose degradation or connection issues in our diverse UC environments is extremely appealing. The potential of that has huge impacts, I think, for all of us on the panel and our folks connected and viewing out there. And CPM does have the potential to fill a lot of those functions, not just in the real time like we're talking about, but also the ability to, like Matt said, dial back the clock or look back in time, so to speak. Major possibilities in helping our operations be much more proactive, efficient, and reliable.
If anybody's ever had to deal with, I'm sure the whole panelists have, read those syslogs that come out when you're trying to diagnose a problem and find that keyword in about 2 million words. Having a real-time diagnosis in English or whatever language is key.
Yeah.
Absolute key.
Thanks, guys. Brian, how about you?
Log diving?
Hog diving there. That's my favorite pastime. But looking at the CPM monitoring and being able to play with it, pretty robustly playing with it for the past couple of months. Being able to, like everybody says, look back at everything. Our users are just notoriously for saying, oh, well, yeah, I heard something about a problem in that room yesterday, but I had a meeting like 2 weeks ago, and I think I had the same issue or I experienced the same things. Deep diving back that 2 week period and then going to whether it was a video call between a codec and a bridge, or even WebEx links, whatever the case may be, but going back and seeing very quickly if there was an issue, what the issue was, and then passing it along to the folks that can deep dive into the network a little bit more than we can. I mean, that's just huge to have a tool that is just very easy. There's not a lot of clicks that you have to go through to find the information that you want, especially if you're being able to search the correct way with titles and things like that. But it could be 2, 3, 4 clicks, where we've seen in some other more costly options, it could take you 10 clicks, or you might not even find it because you're not searching the correct parameters. So it's just the ease of use, the improved visibility into the environment that this provides, and the ability to dial back the clock are just all big things that we see CPM monitoring helping us with.
Thank you, Brian. Awesome. And Liam, can you take us home on this one? Curious your thoughts.
So there's a few things that intrigued me there that I saw just from your slides. Being able to see the camera status, microphone status, and all of that in the room while looking at the call is something that I haven't seen before and would be very useful, especially to my tier 1 and 2 guys who are looking for these kind of problems and trying to correct them. It's something that I don't think there's much out there to do. The thing that really intrigued me, though, was the turn back the clock idea. And that's super useful from a jitter and packet loss perspective to look at. It would be even better, though, if you could tie that to network gear and give me the same overlay with that, which is pretty much what I was talking about. It doesn't exist today. That's where I'm very intrigued by the idea of rolling it back. It's being able to align on one graph, have it show on all the others, and bring in other gear that is outside of necessarily the UC environment. That would be where I could see a technology like this coming in and really helping us put that together. It's the piece we're trying to put together, and it's a very difficult problem to have. I think that both of those things are pretty cool, and that could definitely improve visibility, especially on the AV side for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. And yeah, I think too what I'm hearing is just kind of the ability to diagnose and allow kind of empower more team members to do more on their own rather than trying to take guess around what's going on, handing off to the incorrect team, just empowering people with more data and the ability to do more things on their own. Yeah, fascinating. Thanks so much for your feedback on that. We are a couple minutes over the hour, so I'd just like to kind of close things out. I really appreciate the panelists here and your time. I appreciate everybody that attended the webinar. Thank you so much. If you have questions, feel free to email us at questions@viopta.com. Visit this link for more on monitoring. And again, thank you so much for the panelist time today. And we'll see you again real soon. Thanks so much, everybody.
Our pleasure. Take care, everyone.
Our pleasure.
Enjoy.
And we just for the attendees, we got some questions in there. We have captured those, and we'll follow up in a post-webinar email for you to answer some of your questions. Thanks so much, everybody, for your time.
Yeah, there were some good questions in there too. So
Definitely
want to answer.
was.
Thanks, everybody.
Enjoy.
Cool.
And happy Valentine's Day.